Turning to the crisis at the southern border, 12 House Republicans are seeking answers from the DOJ on the recent ousting of Trump-appointed immigration judges. Writing to Attorney General Merrick Garland, quote, "Your department has reportedly ousted at least a half dozen Trump-appointed judges without legitimate justification for their termination."
Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, joins us now. Tom, at a time when our border is literally being overrun and the need for immigration judges is increasing, we need a lot more immigration judges. What possible explanation could the Biden administration have for eliminating these Trump judges other than politics?
Well, based on the information that's out there, there is no legitimate explanation. Your listeners should know, your viewers should know that this is part of the border crisis. You have these illegal immigrants crossing the border. Some of them are turned back immediately, but many of them get past and are processed and told to show up to pursue, for instance, what are, in my view, fraudulent asylum claims before these administrative law judges hired by the Justice Department. And a few of them were hired by the Trump administration on the way out. They're civil servants, and they're being shown the door in summary fashion. And it suggests they don't want those willing to enforce immigration law to ensure that these asylum claims that are fraudulent or other claims and excuses for staying here illegally aren't stopped. And so on top of that, you also have the Biden administration dropping a lot of these charges. So one of these judges who was fired said, I was very busy, but on the other hand, recently I wasn't because they started dropping all the cases. So this is a part of the Biden border crisis. It's not just on the border. It's here in D.C. The lawlessness is creeping through our justice system, and the politicization of our judicial system, even though it's administrative, is similarly problematic, to put it mildly.
Well, let's listen to one of those judges who was recently fired. His name is Matthew O'Brien. He was on the Ingram angle last night. Watch this.
The immigration courts are supposed to give people who are seeking to remain in the United States or have violated the immigration law a fair review of any claims that they have made. And the Biden administration is trying to turn the immigration court into essentially a free candy store so that anyone who appears in front of the immigration court winds up getting some kind of benefit or being allowed to stay in the United States. And that's not what the courts were designed to do.
He is essentially accusing the Biden administration of packing the court with pro-illegal immigration judges. What happens as a result?
Well, as a result, you see what's going on in the border. They know if you can get past the border and not get turned away, you're unlikely to have to go back home under the Biden administration. They'll not only pay your way through, but move you into the interior of the country. But if you even show up for your hearings, you are unlikely to face accountability or to face an application of the law as it's written. I have an old-fashioned approach to the immigration crisis, which is enforce the law. And the Biden administration does not want to do that. They're upending the law. They're making it easier for people to stay here illegally. And when you start rigging the judicial process, as Mr. O'Brien suggests, he was targeted specifically by leftist immigration lawyers, and they're bringing in these leftist immigration lawyers to be the judges. Now, they have a right to apply, I suppose, but let's be clear what's going on here. They want to rig the system to enable this invasion to continue.
Yeah, it's the latest step in rigging the system to make sure the borders are open. We've been detailing it all. Yeah. Now they're going after the judges. Meantime, the DOJ is suing Arizona over its new law requiring proof of U.S. citizenship in order to vote in our federal elections. Here's what Arizona AG Mark Brnovich said in response, quote, "In addition to free rooms and transportation for those illegally entering our country, the DOJ now wants to give them a chance to vote. It's another round of Brnovich versus Biden. I will see you in court again." Tom, what is so controversial about making sure that the people who vote in our federal elections are, wait for it, citizens of that country, i.e. the United States of America?
You would think it isn't controversial, but it's a law that, practically speaking, can be ignored in the sense that when you register the vote, all you have to do is you certify, you say, I'm a citizen for federal elections, and that's the end of the inquiry. You don't have to prove your citizenship in any reasonable way. And what Arizona is trying to do is change that. And, of course, the U.S. government could change that with just a change in the form. But the Biden administration wants it to make it easier, it looks to me, for people to illegally vote who are both lawfully present here and unlawfully present here. You know, it's not a question sometimes of people even purposely voting illegally. You could have a citizen or a non-resident who's been here as a permanent resident for years, and he misunderstands the rules and goes to vote, and there's really no check in place other than that one form. And Arizona and other states, and frankly the federal government, should ensure, given the tens of millions of foreign nationals present in the United States, that they're not registering the vote and voting. Because once they register the vote, even with voter ID, they normally have the voter ID sufficient to vote as long as they're registered.
Well, you heard Mark Brnovich there. He said, I will see you in court. So to be continued on this one. Tom, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.